Hello and welcome to Eternal Durdles. I'm your host, Zach Clark, and with me as always, Phil Bleckman. Phil, how's it going, man?
Man, it is going so good. Before we start, let me just take a sip of this fine Halo that I have here.
Halo.
I love me a good strong glass of Halo. You know what I mean?
I'm just gonna stick to Coca-Cola.
Oh wow, yeah. So let's dive right in, my guy.
Yeah, let us dive right in. So there's a big controverscy this week, huh?
Yeah, was it though? Was it really? I mean, I don't know. So there was talk that we're learning more about Streets of New Capenna as Streets of New Capenna is fast approaching. I mean, we've already had Kamigawa Neon Dynasty for like what, 3 weeks? Old news. Time for the next thing.
I'm personally bored. I'm not even joking. Like I said, I built four four new commander decks. I played enough arena. I'm done. I'm not even joking. I'd like to see more new cards.
Oh, I mean, I'm always down to see new cards. I do enjoy and love me a good spoiler season, especially since Kamigawa was an absolute banger, right? Like if 2022 is anything, it's just consistent Kamigawa Neon Dynasties all the way to the end of the year. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm in.
So what we learned about Streets of New Capenna, we got a couple of spoilers. First off, people were upset that the Triome cycle, which is being finished in Streets of New Capenna, it's an individual cycle. Cycling is not going to be part of Streets of New Capenna. It's just on those 5 lands. And now the cycle consists of 5 cards with the word Triome in it and 5 cards that don't have the word Triome in it. And people were upset about that. Okay, cool. Because those cards, because they have the basic land type, see a ton of play. Anyway, Streets of New Capenna also has, it's about demon crime fighting families, or not crime fighting families, demon
families. Mob families. Yeah. Organized crime.
They're organized crime. And the thing that runs the streets, like the hot commodity on the streets of New Capenna, is a substance called Halo, which is, a functional man. It's like the equivalent of mana or Ethereum,
like a mana potion,
Literally, it's similar to how Alara had Ethereum, and it was this magical thing that everybody wanted, and then Kaladesh had Aether, and that was something that everybody wanted. But for some reason, this time around, because it's set in a 1920s Prohibition era, and they were like, hey, have Halo at your pre-release, which is just essentially saying have a concession stand, sell drinks to your players, because who doesn't love that? And then everybody was like, how dare WotC promote alcoholism in this game for children? And I'm just like, over here.
I mean, it's just a good thing that there's not another game that has this sort of equivalent where there's just a for lack of a better word, drug that players use.
Yeah, so it was the thing that went viral was something that spawned from Reddit, and it was captioned with, there is a drug in New Capenna called Halo that runs the plane essentially.
Yeah,
but nowhere in the press release or the stuff does Magic call it a drug. It's just because it's set in Prohibition era film noir style that it was associated to being a drug. They don't say it's a drug. They don't actually call it that. And then when they came out after the fact to clarify things, they were like, look, it's similar to Aether. It's similar to mana, which is on every plane. We're not promoting the use of narcotics here. Calm down. And I get the association. I get how people could make that association.
Of course.
And I get how when somebody does make the association, then everybody jumps on top of it. But for a second, instead of, we can jump on WotC's ass for a lot of things, for a lot of the mistakes that they make. But to assume that they were trying to insinuate getting kids hooked on drugs or to become alcoholics at their pre-release because they said they opted for LGSs to serve the drink that is part of their lore.
When they have a perfectly good gambling addiction that they're selling to people, I mean, come on.
It's just one of those things where it felt like. Now, here's the thing, right? I don't want to come off too strongly here in that I've never had a substance abuse problem really outside of how much Magic I play. So I don't want to come off like we are neglecting the people who are triggered by that. If they need to recalibrate how they do that, WotC should be receptive of that. But the feedback to WotC should also be such that, hey, because it's set in this way, even if you don't call it this, by association, you should be aware of these things. And that is a conversation that can be conducive to help them promote their products better as they continue to explore worlds that could have trigger-inducing things. But to come off and be like, WotC intentionally did this horrible thing, I think is overblown. And I was sitting here doom scrolling through Twitter, seeing the response to this being like, how is this the take? How is this the take by so many people that they're like, you're promoting alcoholism? No, it's never once in fantasy lore has there never been a magical elixir or potion or anything that, like, come on, it's part of magic. It's part of the fantasy. Also, there's always been magical potions.
Let's take for a second that this isn't just a children's game, because, like, let's be for real, adults play this game just as much as children do, if not more.
The average Magic player is 28 years old.
At 15, I was playing Vampire the Masquerade, right? Vampire the Masquerade is a role-playing game where vampires are controlling the world, and you're doing vampire-y stuff in the dark and the shadows, not letting the sheep that are human beings know what's going on. But the whole thing revolved around blood, which was like a very, very, very thinly veiled metaphor for drugs. You know,
dude,
like
we just came from Crimson Bow, where there was literally a card called Blood Fountain, and they were doing human sacrifice at the ceremony.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a stretch. It's a little satanic panic, if you will.
Do you remember those videos from the early 90s?
Dude, I lived that. I lived that. Like, I literally had to go into the principal's office and show the principal how the game worked, or
that's so
he was
awesome.
going to take everyone's cards away.
Dude,
like,
that's so
awesome. Because some jock's mom was like, you can't play these cards. There's a demon on them. It's Satan worship. And it's like, one, I'm not worshiping Satan. And two, do you really think that if I was able to invoke like demons, that your kid would be the star football player? No, I would be the star football player. Come on, get out of here.
I would make my life better if I made a contract with the devil.
Get out of here.
Do you remember the video of the guy with the mullet?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have that? Do you know where that video is? Can you find that?
It is on YouTube somewhere, but
it's definitely on the information superhighway. We'll find it and we'll link it for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Just look up Satanic Panic. There's a million videos, but there's a great one where it's like this guy at a seminar who's like trying to explain how like you're creating angels and demons by just playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. It's wild that people believed this on any level. Like, my grandma was one of those people, and I remember going into a comic shop when I was like 15 to look for Magic cards, and she saw a Middle Earth collectible card game poster, the Lidless Eye of Sauron. I'll put that up over here, right? Lidless Eye of Sauron. And I'm 15. I'm in the comic shop looking through binders and stuff, and she points to the wall like she's out of like Poltergeist, and she's like, "That's Satan." And I'm like, "Okay, Grandma, you've got to go." Like, no. No one has time. No one has time for that. And
zero people have time for that.
It's just wild to think that like that's a take that anyone was going to make off of games like that. And it's even more wild that this is the take that people are making. Like, as a 15-year-old playing this game, which is, I think, what they're trying to defend. I think most 15-year-olds know well enough that just because they see some demons hawking Halo to try and like create even if it is like a drug deal situation, does not mean that I'm going to go out immediately and be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I should like open up a speakeasy. You know, like what's the A to B here? I just don't understand.
Yeah, the assumption that if you see something in a game then that will correspond to you behaving or doing things that are promoted in that game.
It's the same. It's the same thing as like people being like, "You're playing fighting games. You're going to be violent." I never punched anybody in my life.
And also, they're actually I will find the studies. There is the science to reflect that, like when you play shooting games or fighting games, that does not translate to people being more violent. Like if you watch movies with violence in them, that does not translate to you being violent. Like
it's just wild that
in a significant way. Like it's not there.
It's wild that we're 25 plus years away from my adolescence, and we're still having this conversation where like people that were teenagers, when I was a teenager, and probably were saying the exact same thing that I'm saying now, are now the people who are like, that the kids are too stupid to tell a difference between like what's fake and what's real. It's like, no, dude, they totally understand. Like, children are not stupid, you know.
It's
like,
also,
it's just wild to
yeah.
me that's the take.
It feels to me it feels very faux outrage. So
Yeah.
you know,
Phil,
pre-release,
I didn't even think I had an opinion on this until we started talking about it, because I was like, yeah, I'll let Phil talk about this, and now like I have a whole.
It's because it is reminiscent of the Satanic Panic, where it's just outrage, which was clear, like it's outrage over something that is clearly not the intent. And then, you know, like when we eventually go to the pre-release, and you know, somebody who's running the pre-release hands you a can of soda that just says Halo on it, a sticker that says Halo on it or whatever. Nobody's gonna be like
the lowest
gonna be like, are
version
you,
of that thing.
Are you handing me alcohol at this? Like, that's just not going to happen.
The bummer of that is
totally
that now if like a store was going to do something cool, like you know, try and like have everyone have a highball glass that like they were going to pour like some bug juice into or something like that.
That was where the thing specifically came from, because in their press release, they specifically put a disclaimer to not put it in anything or any container that could be construed as an alcoholic, that would be alcoholic. And that I think is, that's fine, because if you do have people who are underage, you want to say like, you don't want to put in their hands something that would look as though they're doing something illegal. That's totally fine as a disclaimer, because you're a company and have to put disclaimers on fucking everything. Yeah. But the idea that WotC was like, how can we get kids to do drugs? It's just it doesn't make any. It's not real. It's not a real thing.
It's a shame, because it's a really cool idea. If everybody dressed up like they were Prohibition era gangsters and went to a pre-release, chef's kiss.
That'd be dope.
That's so cool. That'd be so cool. Like, that's the kind of thing that they do. They do the lawn parties in Central Park, where it's like everybody dresses up like it's not the 1920s. Like, that's so cool. You know, and to like have that like preemptively ruined because people are being silly about like what like news that they can put out as outrage culture is ridiculous.
I think it would be pretty cool if they did do a specialty thing where if you like prove that you were of a drinking age in whatever country you're going to, that there actually was a drink that you could buy. That would be really cool.
Oh
like,
my God.
You just do it, go hand in hand with a brewery or something, and then like have you know, a branded Streets of New Capenna drink. That would be like, of course, but you do it in all like the legal ways. Like, that would be a sick crossover.
Yeah, anyway, it's funny. An aside to that is like, I would have thought that with LGSs, you know, so many LGSs closed over the pandemic, and so many people were coming up with their own ways to figure out how to play together. Like, I'm not saying like play in your friend's basement or like some random guys, but like the idea that like we could combine bars and LGSs, to me, would have been such a smart idea. Like, just a really
there's already
way.
some game stores are bars.
Yeah.
Right here in New York City, there's a place called Hex & Co. on the Upper West Side that is literally, you walk in, it's a bar. Yeah. And then they have all of the gaming and they run events and everything, but it's a bar. Like, they make most of their money by selling booze. Anyway, to move away from this topic, because we can keep reiterating the same thing over and over again forever. But I want to leave the conversation open, because I have a pretty strong take. Zach clearly has a strong take. It seems like an obvious take to me, but if you are somebody who, like, that announcement or that whole discussion or everything that we just said felt triggered by, or feel like the side where they actually did make a massive mistake and should retract it or whatever, and you want to come, we will invite you on the podcast to get that point across so we can hear that side of it, because I don't want to just dismiss it, because it did get a lot of response of people saying, how could WotC possibly think that? I am not in the same headspace, so I would love to hear like the actual reason for why, other than it just being like putting words in WotC's mouth when it clearly wasn't their intent. If there actually is something that they did wrong that sparked something, I would love to actually have that conversation.
And I'll be open to listening about it. Like, not to go too dark into this, but like my family has been affected by substance abuse. So like, I'm not completely blind to what the dangers of that are by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that this particular situation is a bit. It just feels. I feel insane having to talk about it. Is what it comes down.
Yeah, it just ain't it, right? Yeah, it ain't it. So anyway, now that we've talked about that, and tis our duty as people in this space. Yeah. Let's actually talk about some nerd cards.
Yeah, so first thing I wanted to do is kind of direct everybody to some new stuff that we're starting out to do. So you might have seen last week I put up 2 deck techs. We've got a rug and an infect deck tech. Phil will be coming up with some deck techs pretty soon. So we've started adding some more video content to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, please do. Please subscribe, like the videos and whatnot, all that stuff. It helps out a ton. It spreads the videos around. You know how,
and it's growing really fast.
Yeah, and it's really wild to like as you can see, we've been updating a lot of our video stuff and figuring out how to do this stuff on the fly, adding images and stuff to our video. Just really trying to learn all this stuff. I'm on a big manic ADHD thing right now, so like I'm just trying to like focus that into learning more stuff. And again, that's all thanks to our Patreon supporters. So I want to thank those guys immediately. Also, I want to thank Dave Kaplan is a brand new supporter of our Patreon. Thanks so much, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. And also Moxfield.
And yeah, let's talk about Moxfield. Moxfield is a really excellent deck building website. You can go to moxfield.com. And they're just all time one of the best deck building websites out there. They work on mobile. They work on. You don't even need an app. It just works on like Safari. It works on Android. You can use it on desktop. It just really great website built by my friends John and Harry. And just go and check out Moxfield.
Yeah, it's where we post all the deck lists that we talk about. I posted a Ninjas deck list that I talked about on the previous episode on there. So it's just going to be where deck lists get posted anytime going forward. If you ever ask us for a deck list that we talk about or a suggestion for a type of deck list, you'll be able to find it on Moxfield. So
right up there.
Sign up, get in on it, and
that helps the show too. Showing Moxfield that our mentions brings support of our listeners really helps.
Yeah. So. Beyond the deck techs that we've done so far and the ones that we plan on doing, if there are deck techs on decks that don't have a lot of coverage on them, like they don't have sites dedicated to them, they don't have channels dedicated to them, or like routine streamers that are constantly streaming a certain kind of archetype. If you want to see a deck tech on an archetype and we're not masters of that archetype, we will invite people to come onto our YouTube channel to do deck techs on those. So let us know in the Discord or the comments of this video what decks or archetypes rather you would like to see deck techs on, and we can talk about the evolution of those things and do that style of deck tech for those things. Because similar to what we did for the legacy budget deck lists, having just like an easy go-to sampler of like, here's what a deck does, here's what its main strategy is, here's why it's good in certain metagames, here are the tools that you can adjust in and out of it, as just like an easy go-to resource for people, I think would be really helpful for, just expanding the format, getting more people into it. So
yeah, I know I've got a few more decks to talk about. Specifically, I want to do that Bug Death Shadows deck that I took to the SCG Con. I know Phil's gonna at least do miracles.
Gotta at least do miracles, yeah. I'll just do 60 different miracles versus miracles. Super easy.
Well, I know. Now you have to do you do altered miracles, and then because of power creep, you have to do unaltered miracles.
Yeah, that's.
Did you see that? Did you see that short from 90s MTG?
That is one thing that I definitely have to do. Is I have to just like lay out my fully altered miracles list and just do a personal deck tech of the alters.
Yeah.
Shout out to the altar community and everybody part of it. It is. I just got a bunch of new stuff. I'll share it in our Discord. It's beautiful. It's exquisite. I can't wait to play with these cards.
Yeah.
And speaking of, I'm playing in a 1K on Saturday, and I will be sleeping up miracles. So there you go.
Man, I really wish I could come up to the 1K. I think I would just go after that bug shadow list again, man. I had so much fun playing that list, and it's just such a dark horse deck that like you just don't, nobody really sees Berserk coming out of a shadow deck to begin with. I mean, they see me, they're gonna realize that, obviously, right? But like being able to just cast like Witherbloom command and stuff like that, it's just so cool. The deck just runs. It runs very similar to how I used to play Rogue Delver, because you're playing with Stifles, and then you have these giant threats in the form of your Death Shadow. And like I said at the at SCG Con, is that like this is a deck where you even have a matchup against decks you would think normally would be very good against you, like Burn.
Yep.
Like
because
Burn,
you can just turn the
Burn
corner.
just like it boosted me. Like I was like, okay, cool. Turn 2, I'm gonna play a 5/5 Death Shadow. Let's do this.
Yep.
You know.
You reminded me on as I was like just thinking of lists that I was going to play at the 1K. I was thinking of how you told me that Death Shadow was had performed really well for you, and how I had also played against Death Shadow at the SCG event a month ago or so, and being reminded at how powerful just really efficient fat threats can be. And I was trying to figure out how to leverage Dress Down and Death Shadow and the other things that go well with Dress Down. And I was looking at trying to figure out a Dreadnought build with like Stifles and Dress Downs and all of that stuff. But one card that it made me think of that could work as like an alternate Berserk thing in a shell like that. We're getting into deck building territory now.
Yeah.
Is between Death Shadow, Dress Down, and Dreadnought, and having that shell. So similar to like what we talked about on ABC deck building, it's like if Death Shadow is the legacy power level thing to do, therefore I want Dress Down, therefore I want Dreadnought. And then you could circle it and be like, well, then you want Stifle. And I know that you're a man who loves a good Stifle.
I love a good Stifle. It's true.
It's one of those things where it might be too convoluted to do, but I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, just being able to play Urza Saga to also make fatties. And I know that we're on Berserk, and Berserk has proved powerful, and Berserk is probably just the better card because you get access to green. But if you, instead of playing green, if you played Urza Saga as your in those slots,
there are some Death Shadow decks that are playing Urza Saga.
That play like some number of it, and you can tutor up the Dreadnought, you can Stifle it, or you can find Shadow Spear, which I get that Shadow Spear giving lifelink isn't what you want in Death Shadow, but for the gameplay of I want the thing that gives it trample to push through a bunch of damage.
Yeah,
it gives trample, so it could be like your one shot on a big threat or on a Death Shadow or something. And now you have constructs, Death Shadows, and Dreadnoughts as all these fat threats that could be really cool. And never in my life, Zach, was I ever excited to play with Stifle, and now I am. So.
I love playing Stifle, man. That's my probably one of my favorite Magic cards.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I played against Cloud Post this past week, and I played with 2 Stifle in my deck because I was just trying to try something new. And let me tell you, that match went from being unwinnable to a bye.
It's wild how good Stifle is, and people are always like, "Oh man, like what if I, like what if you play a deck that doesn't have fetch lands in it, like Death and Taxes?" It's like, dude, that's really still very good. You can stop a Stoneforge Mystic from finding a piece of equipment. There's there's so many triggers in Legacy that you're gonna find something useful there. Or like if you're playing lands and you're like, no, you don't actually get to copy, or no, you don't get to bring Merit Lage into play off of your Dark Depths. Stuff like that. Like, just that card is such a time walk at times, but it's also just like, oh, are you going to storm off? I guess I'll Stifle your storm. You won't do storm anymore. Like, I could talk for hours about how good Stifle is.
Dude, one of the things that was magical was never have I ever stifled an Emrakul trigger. And let me tell you, a 15/15 flyer that's like got protection from almost everything isn't nearly as scary if you get to take a turn first. It can still kill you, but let me tell you, when you actually get to do things, like chef's kiss, Jace bouncing an Emrakul. No.
Yeah,
could eat that all day. Anyway, so the other thing that we want to talk about is there are some Streets of New Capenna spoilers that have happened so far. Beyond the lands, we have the Ascendency cycle that they're going to finish for not wedges but shards, essentially, because it's a shard block.
Yeah.
So we have Broker's Ascendancy, which is the Bant one, which is it's a 3-mana enchantment, one of each color. And at the end of your turn, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. This one, not good enough for Legacy, I don't think, unless there's some kind of weird combo that I'm unaware of. But let's speculate, Zach. What's the rest of it going to look like?
Ooh, man. Okay, Grixis. Man, I didn't prepare for this. So let's think. We've got Grixis. We've got Esper. Esper is probably something like bring a artifact out of your graveyard into your hand every turn.
Oh, right? You think it's just going to be a disentomb? It's going to be a reconstruction every turn?
Yeah, reconstruction every turn.
Okay.
Grixis, for 3 mana for Grixis. What if it's just Elemental Augury from
Elemental.
Ice Age?
Oh, you want them to do throwbacks?
No. So man, Grixis I'll come back to. Bant we've got. Then we've got what?
Jund.
What if Jund is like give a -1/-1 to a creature and a +1/+1 to a creature? What if like counters are like a thing for this set?
So it's possible. I was using all of the inspiration I got on speculation here was just looking at the triomes for the wedges that we got.
Okay.
The images on the triomes, and then trying to be like, okay, what would happen in this image? And that's going to be what the Ascendancy is going to be.
So
right?
you've decided that the Bant one, that's what's happening in that one.
Well, in the Bant one, they're like it's literally like a tower in the middle of Manhattan. It's literally a law office, is what it looks like, right? And that's what they are. They're all lawyers. And so it's like, of course, they're just at a table and they're like, as lawyers, we're just gonna, get rich. And so everybody gets bigger.
Yeah.
So in the Jund one, it's a dude sweeping or like cleaning the canvas of a boxing ring. And so I think every turn it's going to have your creatures fight their creatures.
Okay.
Like, okay. I think it's just gonna.
Well, what if it doesn't even fight? It just like deals damage, like
It could be, yeah. I'm like, Jund here is just going to be Fight Club.
It seems like they've kind of moved away from fight as a mechanic, and that feels like because it's such a feel bad at times when your creatures are smaller than your opponent's creatures.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong, but like, also, why are you playing creatures?
Also,
you should just not play creatures. For the Esper one, the artifact thing is a good idea. I mean, the emblem for them is literally a knife going through a hand. So I imagine that the Obscura, which is the Esper of this plane, are going to have something to do with being the hitmen, and that means that you're going to essentially put them in really tight positions. So I think the Obscura Ascendancy is going to do something with restrictions. Like, I think it's going to be the type of card that says your opponents can only cast one spell per turn, or every spell that they cast beyond their first costs them life, or something like some kind of thing that's going to make it more difficult for them to actually navigate the game, as though you were constantly on the lookout of being killed.
Okay.
I think flavorfully that would make sense.
So I think I fixed my Jund one. It'll be do 1 damage, give a +1/+1 counter, and give a -1/-1 counter.
Okay.
So
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because you're like 3 different colors. Yeah. Grixis, I think Nicol Bolas returns.
Grixis, just like
Nicol Bolas is just in the Streets of New Capenna. He's hanging out with Obnixilis. What's Obnixilis going to do?
Obnixilis, man, that's like, it was so easy for me to figure out like what Garrick was going to do when we only had like seven planeswalkers, not like 9, like 9 versions of a thing. But coming up with like a planeswalker who to me is just like bad necropotence, right? Like he's like do 1 damage to yourself, draw a card, kill a creature.
Yep.
He'll do like he'll do what is it? Sign in Blood.
Okay.
It'll do Hero's Downfall, and the ultimate will be what's it, the Return from the Dead Realms, because it seems like they tack that onto like everything now.
Yeah, that's not a bad guess. So I'm trying, like, Omnixilus historically, when we first met him, it was in Zendikar, and he had lost his spark. He was a demon who lost his spark.
Just a guy,
and that was the whole thing. And then they came up with another card in his lore, Omnixilus Reignited. That's when his spark reignited. That's why he's called that. And he got his spark back, and that's great. And then they had the commander version of him prior to him losing his spark, which is the Planeswalker version. And then they also have the regular version where he's a demon.
I call that one Omnixilus Biker Guy, by the way.
Yeah, Omnixilus Biker Guy when he wasn't a demon yet. And then they have the one where he is a demon, and he was really the foundation of the 5-mana Planeswalker, right? +1 draw card, -2 kill a thing, minus ultimate win the game.
It's like they have that for like every, like what, like the Golgari one, Vraska does that too. Like basically,
that's the formula. The formula is +1 gain a resource, -2 take a resource away from your opponent, minus ultimate kill your opponent. That was a formula, and Omnixilus was like the OG version of that. He was like the quintessential, literally +1 draw card, -2 or 3 kill a creature, -8 ultimate functionally wins the game, and you can't avoid it. So I think what they're going to do, because he's a demon, badass gangster, I think it's just got to be like, it's just got to be ruthless shit, right? Like he's got to do
draw 3, lose 3.
It's got to be something like it's got to be something where it's like it is exploiting in some way. Like I would not be surprised if they just did what they love to do, and which the thing that I hate that they love to do is use mechanics that they've already created but not keyword them. And I imagine that exploit, which makes tons of sense for a gangster set, is something that Omnixilus would do. So I think Omnixilus is going to be like, they're going to write it out. Instead of saying exploit something, they're going to write it all out.
You can pay a black or a white to,
Yeah. And I think that
you think he'll just be mono black?
I think they will push him into another color. I think they're going to move him into another color. I feel as though Omnixilus is the type of dude who would probably be pretty down with the Phyrexians, right? Mm-hmm. I could imagine that he gets completed at some point along the way. Like, Sheoldred's like, yo, what up, demon? You down to join? You down to be perfection?
That's a good point, Phil. Do you think that there's going to be another Praetor?
Oh yeah, I think Sheoldred for sure is in this. I mean, it's so it makes sense. Like they're lining up each Praetor with a
different plane,
with a plane that they like fit most on. So in the plane where it's literally Vikings fucking bashing each other to death in war, it makes sense that Vorinclex is going to be the dude. And then when you're in, super hyper advanced technological Kamigawa, of course, the Blue Praetor, that's all about technology and advancing the society, is going to show up there. Yeah. So in Gangster Prohibition, I don't think it's Urabrask. I don't think Urabrask has a home here. He
doesn't feel like a Gangster Prohibition kind of guy.
Like Sheoldred could absolutely be like, I'm running the scenes in the shadows here. Or Elish Norn, who would be like, I'm running the scenes on stage,
I feel like Elish Norn could be here too. I don't know if any of these characters are still alive or that got destroyed. That's the other thing. Like, I think that they're all still alive.
As far as I know, all the Predators are still alive. My guess is that Sheoldred shows up in Capenna, because I think once we actually go back to Phyrexia, and I imagine that we go back to Phyrexia next year, because it would be weird to do one Praetor in each block or each set,
and then not
after Nicol Bolas is gone, and then not
go back
years. And then wait still to like go back. It's like it would be weird to do your build up and then like pull the rug out from under you and then not actually finish the deal. So I think Sheoldred shows up here. Urabrask shows up in
what do you think? Lord of the Rings.
I think it shows up in modern time Dominaria.
I'd be so mad if he showed up in Lord of the Rings.
If he showed up, I don't know.
I would flip a table. I'd be so upset.
Dude, if Gandalf is just Sensei's divine Magus of the Sensei's top, though, I will happily welcome. Anyway, so I think that Sheoldred will be in New Capenna, because I think Urabrask is going to be in Dominaria. And then I think Brothers War is going to be outside of the timeline, right? I think it's going to be a standalone, unique thing to itself. Okay. But Dominaria United which is the story, as far as I know, is Dominaria uniting to take on the Phyrexians. So I think in Dominaria United, Uroboros could show up there. And then when we go into 2023, we actually go back to New Phyrexia. And on New Phyrexia, we see that Elish Norn is just like the all-powerful now, like the new Nicol Bolas. So I think that like
that's solid, yeah.
Elish Norn is like the leader and doesn't show up on another plane because she's too busy ruling over New Phyrexia.
Yeah. All right.
MTG the flavoring. We need you in here.
Yeah, dude. We need the flavoring.
We need the flavoring.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think that's kind of it for this week, huh?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about New Capenna. I wanted to talk about Halo, which I'm gonna drink so much of. Oh, I'm gonna drink so much Halo.
If it tastes like Surge, I'm in.
If it tastes, yeah, it's really so. How great would it be if at the end of the day, Watsy's just like, everybody, please calm down. Halo is Baja Blast.
It's actually just Crystal Pepsi. We brought it back,
It's
guys.
just
Crystal Pepsi. We brought it back.
It's Coca-Cola Classic.
Oh God.
But yeah, anyway, hop in the Discord. Let us know what you want for deck techs, because that is going to be something that we're just going to really ramp up on our YouTube channel. We want to get that going. We want to be able to deliver on that type of content. And sidebar, fucking people start putting Lavinia in your board for the Forkin 8-cast matchup. Everybody's like worried about Kappa Cannoneer, and I'm like, bro, they're not playing removal. Just put Lavinia in your deck and counter all their spells.
Yeah, I guess that stops that from happening, doesn't it? They just can't even play it.
It just makes it way more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now they need at least 5 land. Oh no, it doesn't stop non-creatures, but it stops like all their baubles and like all the fast shit that they would normally be doing. It cuts off cast unless they have 5 lands. Like Lavinia needs to show up in more numbers. Renegade, the 2 mana one.
Yeah, not the 5 mana one from, or the 7 mana one from RTR.
I got nothing else. Grab your Lavinias.
Yep.
Talk to us in Discord. Zach, you're handsome and thin.
Oh man, thanks. I'm feeling good. Feeling good. You know what? You're handsome and thin too, Phil.
You know what? I'm gonna look even more handsome and thin once my new Eternal Durdles merch finally arrives.
Oh yeah, I can't wait, man. I actually updated some of the logos and stuff. So if you get a chance, check out our merch store. I updated the logo, so it's a little bit more dynamic now. And yeah, I guess that's it for this week. Everybody, be safe, have a good one, and Phil, I'll see you next week. Hey, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out this other video, and if you can, please support us on patreon.com.